Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. As you know, I started this channel for the purpose of education. I would like to share information about medical device industry and medical technology industry with people who are keen to learn how to get in, what to do to get into the industry, and what are the benefits, maybe advantages and disadvantages of working in this industry. So today I made a video which is basically a conversation with a person who has more than 40 years of experience working in medical technology sector. It's very impressive. And this person was kind enough to agree to give me an interview, and I hope that the information you will gather from this conversation will be very valuable and will help you to learn more. I will give you a brief overview. So the name of the person I was interviewing is Marc Lamont. He lives in Belgium and he's been working internationally for more than 40 years. If you would like to learn what are the difference in working in North America versus Europe, what are the differences in working for large companies and small companies, and what are the benefits of working internationally, keep watching this video. Also, Marc is an author of a few books in management, success, and self-development. And if you like self-development books, as much as I do, I have a big collection of them. So this is his book that we're gonna talk about in this interview. And again, I hope it will also help you and you will learn a little bit more, and maybe you will even go and pick up this book after. Anyways, so keep watching this video. As always, please leave me comments and questions. You can contact me here on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Enjoy the video, and I'll see you in my next video. Yes, now I can hear you as well.
Hello, good morning to you.
Thank you. Yes, good afternoon for you.
Yes, indeed. And we are in the middle of...
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I guess we will just start the conversation because I have a couple of questions that I prepared, and I just want to welcome, I guess, you to my channel. Thank you so much. And I'll give a quick introduction of you to the audience just to tell them what you do quickly. So Marc Lamont is a global business executive working in healthcare and medical technology sector, and the author of several books related to management, success, and self-development. Marc holds more than 40 years of experience working in management in medical, pharma, and healthcare industries. He holds master's degree in medical pharmaceutical sciences, as well as an MBA from Flanders Business School in Belgium. He worked in management positions in large companies. Some of them belong to Fortune 500 companies, and also with smaller companies. So Marc has experience working with startups, spin-offs, and joint ventures. He also has international experience working not only in Western Europe, where he is right now, but also in Eastern Europe, Middle East, Far East, Africa, and North America. And he currently lives and works in Belgium.
Yes.
And today he kindly agreed to speak to me and tell me more about his career path. And also we're going to talk a little bit about his latest book, which is called The Power of Untitled Chapter. As you can see, this is my copy, working copy with a lot of notes there.
Yeah, I see.
Thank you so much again. Thanks for joining me. And I guess, well, I know the list of your experiences is huge because more than 40 years of experience. It's quite extensive. But I guess I'll just...
We cannot cover it in 30 minutes.
Exactly. So I'll just jump in right into questions portion.
Yeah.
And the first question I would like to ask you to tell me more about how you got into this industry in healthcare medical technology, and what was your first job when you started, and why did you stay in this industry for this long?
Yeah. So before, and I think this is very important what I'm going to tell for other people, before I started my university studies, I had already a life philosophy. My life philosophy was to be able to help patients to become better, to have again a normal life, or in the worst case, even to be able to improve again their quality of life. That is the reason why I decided to do a master in medical and pharmaceutical sciences. So that was my motivator to do those studies. At the end of those studies, I did a specialization in toxicology, worked very briefly in that area, had also to do a mandatory military service. And if you remember my life philosophy, I was absolutely against the idea of becoming better in killing people. So I was going for a different military service, which was becoming a specialist in saving people in case of nuclear, chemical, and biological wars. And I became a specialist in that field, and that brought me also into into international contacts, which I appreciated a lot. So after my military service, I thought, well, I like international contacts. I want to stay with my life philosophy, but I'm also interested in business. So I went for a business job, and I could land as a first job, a job as sales manager of a small team of 8 people in Europe, more specifically in the Benelux. I worked about 10 to 12 months in that job. This was with one of the bigger companies I was working for. This was on a well-established business, but then after 10 months, suddenly the company came to me and they said to me, Mark, are you interested to start up the business for us in a specific area, moving to Moscow? So after nearly 1 year of experience, I decided to go to Moscow and start up a business in the field of immunology over there. Now, at that time, we are speaking about the period of Brezhnev at that moment. It was quite an experience to go over there, I can tell you, because not many international companies were present in Moscow to start business. So this was very, very exciting and very interesting for me to do that during some time. And when I came back from Moscow, I said, well, this is what I want to do. I want to grow in business and I want to grow in international business. And that was the beginning of my international business career in the healthcare. Now, what happened is that to my life philosophy of helping patients, gradually I added a second mission, which was and still is helping other people in business with becoming more successful and becoming more experienced in what they have to do. And I do this based on all the experience I was so lucky to have over all those years.
Thank you. Well, that's actually hearing about business in Brezhnev time is quite an experience, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can speak hours about that. It was
a conversation about that, I think.
Yeah, I can speak hours about it. It was quite interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure. And can you tell me what is your current role? What do you do right now?
Yeah, so up to May of this year, so only 2-3 months ago, during about 2 years, I was the chief commercial officer worldwide for a startup scale-up company active in the field of artificial intelligence, and more specifically using artificial intelligence for interpreting radiological images. Okay. So during 2 years, I've been working hard to put this company on the map worldwide. The company has an office in Belgium, but has in the meantime an office in the States, also in Chicago. I created a worldwide team of direct salespeople combined with a worldwide network of distributors from Japan to Australia to Africa. That is what I've been doing the last 2 years. Then I left this company in May because I considered that my main purpose which was to put this company on the map, was finished. And since May, I have been very actively writing on another book, which is ready in the meantime and which will be published in September. And this book is a book that should help people who want to start a company. And I'm focusing in the book mainly on what is the attitude and what are the specific elements you have to take care about if you want to grow your startup to a successful business.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Very busy. So based on your experience working with large companies, because I know that you worked for companies like Baxter and Boston Scientific, you also worked for smaller companies.
Yeah.
Based on your experience, what would be the biggest difference for you working for smaller companies versus large companies? Because that's a very common question I receive from students, from people that I talk to. Can you please tell me?
Yeah. Both have advantages and disadvantages. And I think what you consider advantages or disadvantages is very much linked to your own personality. Sometimes people think safety is bigger in a big company. My experience is this is not necessarily true. Both in larger companies or in small or startup companies, you can have the problem that something happens, that your job disappears for whatever reason, even not under your control. So I'm not going to go deeper into security, job security, because I consider it the same in big and in smaller companies. There are a lot of other differences. In bigger companies, there is a lot more structure. There are a lot more procedures. The fact that there's a lot more structure and a lot more procedures reduces a little bit the flexibility. If you have a personality where you like structure, where you like procedures, you will be tempted to work by preference in a bigger company. On the other hand, if you don't like a lot of structures around you, and if you don't like a lot of procedures, and you like flexibility, and on top of that, you like the excitement of passion, of being very passionate about something, that is something that you will find in smaller companies and that is less present in bigger companies. So again, you will appreciate this if your personality is rather focused on flexibility, excitement, and passion. Then you will be more happy in a smaller company, startup, scale up, or smaller company. Now, what I did is I started in big companies, but I tried to find a mix between both. And what I always was looking for, being at the moment that I was in bigger companies, was yes, I work for a bigger company, but give me the new projects. Put me on new business units where we start up a completely new business from scratch, but under the umbrella of a bigger company. And then you have the combination of both advantages. You have the advantage of the big company that takes care of you, that can give you a lot of coaching and training, which is also a problem in smaller companies. In smaller companies, you have to rely on self-development. In bigger companies, a lot of education and coaching is done for you by the company. But in the situation where I ended up was new businesses started by bigger companies. You have on one hand the structure of the big company with all the advantages, and on the other hand you have the excitement and the passion of the new business that you are starting up. So I combine both. That's an interesting idea to follow, I think, for other people.
Yeah, it is an interesting strategy, I guess, but yeah, it's something to consider. And another question that I would like to ask you, it's about your international experience, because many students are thinking about working internationally. And of course, right now with current situation, it's a little bit tougher to do. However, it's still, I know it's still in the back of my mind, or people that I know. What would be your perspective on working in Europe versus working in North America? Because majority of people who watching this probably will be from North America. And can you name maybe a couple of advantages working in Europe and a couple of disadvantages?
Yeah. Well, I think before addressing advantages and disadvantages, the first question to address is how easy is it to get a job in Europe, coming from Canada or Northern America in general? And I would say if you have the ambition to do that and you're already working with a company, it might be easier than if you are a student. Mm-hmm. Because as a student, applying for a job in Europe is not that easy, I think, unless you can present a knowledge or skills that are exceptional. Because people will always have the question, why is this person wanting to make that move coming from studies? On top of that, people should know that in many countries in Europe, there are also restrictions on hiring people coming from abroad. Not only from the States or from Northern America, but even within Europe. I've been working myself 15 years in the Netherlands with a Dutch employment contract. Although I was living in Belgium. When I went into this job, the company that hired me had to write for the government a text saying we are hiring this person who is coming from Belgium because we cannot find any other suitable candidate for this job. That is something that people have to take in mind when they want to go to a specific country. It's not that easy. It's not enough to say, I want to go to that specific country and have a job over there. Especially as a student, it's more difficult than if you're already in another job. Having said this, in my experience and in the different companies that I've been working, I've hired several people coming from abroad, from other countries, and also from Canada and Northern America. How did this go? Well, one of the ideas to do this is people who have already a university degree and who decide to do a PhD with the university in Europe. And once you are accepted by a university to do a PhD, it becomes much more easier to combine the PhD with the job. So doing both at the same moment, doing a PhD and at the same moment working in a company in the town where the university is based. So that is one of the ideas that several students follow to get a job in Europe or in another country in Europe. Make the combination, PhD studies. Otherwise, it's not that easy. It's not that easy to land a job in another country, even if you're coming from another country within Europe. But well, there are ways around. Now, are there advantages? If you like international work, if you like contact with other cultures, with other people, of course, it's very interesting. But yeah, there are some things that you have to be open for, of course. One of the biggest hurdles is still the languages.
I agree.
There are so many different languages in Europe, and if you don't speak at all any other language than English, English is very well accepted everywhere in Europe, but it's very convenient to speak at least one other language. Little advantage for Canada, a lot of people speak French.
Yes.
Myself, I speak 8 languages.
Oh, that's amazing. But yeah, that's the difference, I guess, between Europe and here. And yeah, that's a great point to consider for people who are actually thinking transfer.
Yeah, invest in learning another language. Very important.
Great. That's great advice. Thank you. Now I would like to ask you more about the technology and medical technology, because considering your experience traveling the world, can you tell me, in your opinion, what country will have the most medical developments in medical technology and also implementation of those technologies within the next 10 years? Can you make that prediction? Which country will be the leader in this field?
I think in general in Europe, all countries are very open to start using new technology. If the question is more, where do you see this new technology developing due to investments in research and development? I would rather think to answer this question not in function of a specific country, but in function of specific cities. There is a group of about 10 to 15 cities in Europe where there is a very high level of knowledge in development of new technologies and new technologies specifically for healthcare, but in general, also for other industries. So starting, for example, with Belgium, you have to think at towns like Leuven, which is a very well-known university, also linked with a very strong university hospital. Also Ghent, where there is a kind of biotech valley present at the moment. So Ghent and Leuven are two towns with a lot of startups and scale-up companies. If you go to the Netherlands, you have Amsterdam, you have Rotterdam, you have Eindhoven, three towns that are very strong in the Netherlands. If you look at Germany, you have to look at Berlin. Berlin has a very strong core of development, research and development, and new startups and scale-ups. If you look to the UK, I would think directly at Oxford, where there is a lot of activity going on. So it's more city-based than country-wide that you have strong groups of research and development and a lot of startup and scale-up companies that are created around those activities, very often linked to well-known universities.
Okay.
Sweden, for example, you have Stockholm with the Karolinska University, very strong university, university that has the highest number of publications worldwide, also very strong in creating new scale-ups and startups.
Okay. You would say that Europe is moving towards startup culture, and it has a lot of startups right now.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. There is, and it's growing. It's continuing to grow. At the moment, the number of people that are creating startups and scale-ups is very high. The culture of young people is changing a lot. What I mean is, 20, 30 years ago, what I saw is that a lot of people were still afraid to start up a company. That is something that I have seen disappearing completely. Now people have an idea and they really want to go forward.
Okay, thank you. I guess we're moving slowly towards the book that I mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you could name a company from either your experience working for or maybe a company you're just familiar with that you would say that company has pretty high attitude capital.
Very difficult to say because sometimes companies change also. I must say, for example, I've been working nearly 7 years with Boston Scientific. At that moment, at that specific moment, there was a high level of attitude capital present. Mm-hmm. But I cannot say that I don't know the company today, so I'm not sure that it is still the same. And that's why I'm saying it might change in function of time how a company is doing in this field. But there are absolutely companies that pay a lot of attention to this, while other companies completely neglect it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like I said, here, and for people who would like to learn more about power of attitude capital, this is the book. What I found reading this book, that yes, it does talk about the attitude building, but I think it's the first book that I've read that speaks about it from the context of a company or an organization. So what I found was really unique about it. And I would like to read one specific quote here. So success of a company or an organization is determined by the sum of successes of employees.
Yeah.
But my question would be, in your opinion, whose really this job is? Is it employees' job to build that attitude, or it's the company's job to build the attitude?
I've been many times in the position where I was leading a group. I started leading a group of 8 people. At one moment in my career, I was leading a group of 600 people. I always considered it my responsibility to develop the attitude capital of the people I was working with. I think it's one of the biggest assets, your attitude capital, or I call it sometimes attitude intelligence, is very important. I think also in being a student, sometimes students, when they start in a job, they make the mistake that everything they have learned during their studies is extremely important and that will help them a lot in their job. I'm saying this is certainly not coming in the first place. There are 2 things that come in the first place, I think, if you move from being a student to a job where you want to be successful. The first thing is your attitude intelligence, and that is what I describe in the book. The second thing is emotional intelligence, being able to understand people, being able to understand other cultures, being able to really feel what other people think and want to do for you, and how you can influence other people to do something for you. So attitude intelligence and emotional intelligence are much more important in a job than everything you have learned during your studies.
That's great. And from the individual point of view, well, right now it's era of everyone is chasing success. And in your book, you mentioned 3 groups of people. One group is lucky people, the second group is unconsciously successful, and third group of people is consciously successful. So I'd like to ask you for an advice or personal opinion, how to become consciously successful person.
It's a matter of personality, of course, and changing personality is not that easy, but it's not impossible. I think the first thing that you have to realize is, what type of person am I? Am I somebody who just believes that everything is possible without considering the reality? Or am I somebody who understands very well what the reality is and how you can influence the reality based on your skills and your attitude? So it all starts with knowing yourself. What kind of person am I? And do I really want to change myself to become a realistic, conscious winner going after success? For some people, it's very difficult. For other people, it's very easy.
Yeah, in your the attitude building with muscles building.
Yeah, it's a matter of exercise. Your mind is just like a muscle. You have to train it every day. Same with becoming positive. You have to train your positivism every day, and even myself, I continue to do it every day still, because it's a muscle, and if you don't maintain the muscle, then you might go down.
I actually, one more phrase that I really liked and I have it in mind right now. It's about the personal gain. So you say that the personal gain comes secondary, not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Could you please tell a little bit more about this? Because I think that's something that I would like to get across my audience, because it does come secondary, even though many people sometimes confuse that and they look for personal gain or for high salary, high returns right away from the beginning. So can you please tell me a little bit more? What do you think about it?
It's very closely linked to passion. if you want to do something good, and if you want to succeed in something, besides all the other elements that are part of the attitude intelligence or the attitude capital, one of the other things you absolutely need is passion. And passion is very often something that is linked to a specific objective that you want to reach. And you can have passion for a short-term objective, or you can have passion for a lifelong objective. Like my first objective or my first life philosophy is helping other people. My second one is helping people in business to become more successful. Those two objectives are two objectives that I have for my whole life. I will never have to get up in the morning and think by myself, what do I have to do today? Because I know when I get up, I'm waking with those two objectives, those two philosophies in my mind from the moment I get up. And that motivates me every morning to get up and start working right away. So all this reflects passion. If your passion is getting money, it's not a good objective, because it's very difficult to make this work, a passion for money. You forget about all the other things that you need to become successful, and you just think about the money, and very often people who think only about the money are failing, because you need a lot more than just a passion for money. So the better way is to start with a passion for a specific objective, and then automatically the money will follow.
Thank you. That's a great.
Yeah.
What your maybe biggest not mistake, I would say biggest challenge or maybe shortcoming that you faced working for different companies that was coming from the company? You know, some companies have, I guess, internal problems or culture problems. So what was something that you faced in the past and how you dealt with it, and how would you suggest for people to deal with it, I guess, from their personal perspective?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest difficulties you can find in some companies, and it's not necessarily linked to a company, it's very often linked to specific people, is a lack of real interest in the people they are working with. Specifically, if we are speaking about managers, if a manager does not have a real deep interest in the people working in his team, and he just considers himself as the driver of the activities of his team, very often this goes the wrong direction. And if somebody has that attitude, very often it is linked to a lack of interest in the team members and interest in helping the people to become successful, just thinking about their own success. That's really a bad thing, and very often those situations don't end very well. Or the people in the team leave, or the team makes the manager it's so difficult that the manager leaves, but it's never a happy end, that kind of situations.
How to deal with it? Let's say if a person faces that tough relationship with a manager, but cannot really leave the company at this particular moment. What would be your suggestion? How to cope with it? How to deal with it? What's the best way? From your
Depends if you're placing yourself as a member of the team that is experiencing this behavior, or if you are the manager managing another person who is showing that behavior. I think, yeah, the relationship is different in the two situations I described, but I think in both situations, and if it is from manager to manager, well, it's a little bit easier to tell that person, okay, this is not the right behavior to lead a team, and those are the reasons why it is not the right behavior. It's a little bit more difficult if you are in the team that is managed by that person to make it obvious to that person that this is not the right attitude. But I've seen this happening, and especially if the message comes to this person from the team and not from an individual person, it might be more effective.
Okay, thanks. And what would be your advice for building the attitude for people right now, actually, this current time? Because right now we're facing so many uncertainties, economical, political, travel restrictions due to pandemic, all that put a lot of stress on people.
Yeah,
but I think
absolutely.
still should work on their attitude. And I think this is the time to work on it. So what would be your advice, how to work on that attitude right now?
Well, as you have seen in my book, I defend 10 principles that built up the attitude capital. I think if you succeed to build up those 10 principles, you will have a very strong attitude to cope with the actual situation. You should, well, I speak, for example, about perseverance. I speak about positive attitude. I speak about self-confidence. If you can develop all those characteristics, if you can develop all those principles, I think you are very strong under the actual circumstances. And I remain in contact with a lot of readers of my book, and many of them tell me, especially in this situation with the actual crisis, we are rereading your book a second time, a third time, because rereading your book and thinking deeper about those principles makes us much stronger in confronting the actual situation. Because it's a difficult situation at the moment. It's not easy. For some people, it's very hard. So you have to be really strong. You really need to have a strong attitude to cope with everything that is happening at the moment. But if you develop all those characteristics, you are much stronger, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I think this is the time to work on that, to work on journal quality. Definitely the book comes in.
Yeah, I have, well, my book was published about 12 months ago. And I have now people who bought it in the first month and read it in the first month. And now they are contacting me again and saying, well, we have read your book 12 months ago, but seeing the actual situation, we have pulled it again up and we are rereading it. And it's so fantastic to reread it in function of the actual situation.
No, this is the time to work on the attitude capital.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Marc. I have just 2 questions that I like to ask at the end of the interview. So
yes.
Could you please name a person, a real person who lives right now in current times that you find is, well, we can define it as extraordinary, or someone that young people can look up for?
Very difficult, because I know a few people, but other people will not necessarily know them. That's the difficulty. That's the difficulty. In my book, I have described contacts that I had with a few persons. And one of the persons that is still on my mind, and you might remember the story, is this 101-year-old man that I met in a home for older people, and who was extremely happy and always in a good mood. And since I was on a regular basis visiting another person at that home, I asked that man one day, tell me your secret. Why are you so happy and always in a good mood at the age of 101 years old? And he said, you know what? You have to understand my life philosophy. I'm here the person who have to keep the other people alive. So my work is to speak every day with everyone, bring them in the good mood, and try to make them happy, and so they can continue to live in good circumstances. I found this an extraordinary story. Um, those words coming out of the mouth of a 101-year-old man was surprising for me.
Yeah, it is very impressive. And I guess the second question that I would like to ask you, what is your favorite quote?
Oh, my favorite quote.
Because I know you have a lot here, but I'm sure there's
Yeah.
you really like.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a difficult one. I think, yeah, it's more a story than a quote, but the story of the two frogs is something that I like, because it's the story of the two frogs is those two frogs that, well, a group of frogs that travel through the wood, and two frogs fall in a very deep hole, and they try to jump out, and the other frogs are thinking, well, the hole is too deep, they will never get out. And they shout to the two frogs, just give up, you're going to die, the hole is too deep. And one of the frogs listens to the other frogs and falls dead in the hole. But the second frog continues to jump up and jump and jump and jump, and suddenly comes out of the hole. And then the other frogs tell to this frog, have you not heard us shouting that it was impossible? And he said, no, I'm a little bit deaf.
That's the positive attitude right there.
Yes, never give up.
That's the positive right there. Well, thank you so much. Can I actually read my favorite quote from your book?
Yes, absolutely.
It's very short, but it's very powerful,
yeah,
in my opinion. So you say that there is no gene for success in our DNA.
Absolutely.
You yourself are responsible for your success. I
yes,
think that's,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think this is the best advice, the best idea that you have.
Same with talent. For example, a lot of people always say, you are born with talent. I think there is, well, you are born with maybe 10% of the talent, and the other 90% you have to develop yourself. If you look to all the people who do extraordinary things, my God, they have been working so hard to reach that stage, to reach that level. This was not because they were born like that. They have been working very, very hard to develop that talent. And that is what people should not forget. You are born with 10% of the talent that you can reach to do extraordinary things. The other 90% is dependent on the work you invest in it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's the best advice. Thank you. Thank you, Marc, so much. Thanks for your time. Thanks for
your time also.
Thanks for the book. I'll leave the description and also where people can find this book under my video when I will post it, so they will know how to find this. And it's a great read. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I just, again, want to say huge thanks for your time and for what you shared with me.
Thanks for your time. I'm happy that I can share my experience with other people.
And it's a valuable experience, and so many people are looking for, people to share and talk about it, because right now that's the time to work on the internal attitude capital. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Marc, thank you.